Can you tell me a little bit about Indonesia?
Yeah, so we're in Bali, which is, I would say, more specific than the other islands of Indonesia in the sense that it's not the same religion. The whole, like, Indonesia is mainly Muslim, and Bali is Hindu. So you have a very specific Balinese culture, which in some points resembles Indian culture.
Yeah,
Like,
very
because
simple.
of religion.
When I traveled to Bali, I noticed some simple things, but it was before I went to India, the year before. So it's similar, there are similar things because of religion, but obviously the difference is because of geography, all these sort of things.
Yeah.
The way they use temples is often different. So you see people washing themselves in temples.
Interpretations of religion.
It's slightly different.
So all of them is religious.
Yeah, very. The ceremonies are very, very important in Bali.
Same in India. India's the white
Every
breeding
house,
ground for religion.
every house in Bali has its own small temple in the garden. Yeah. So
In the garden or in the house?
In the garden.
In the garden,
It's like
yes.
outside. You have a small structure that resembles a small temple. It would be like a worship table, but outside in stone.
And it's very big. Like it's kind of
Kind of the size of the space we have here.
Yes.
They have the temple outside, so inside they have the worship table or not?
No, they don't have a worship table. It's really like a really small temple.
And they put like incense and offerings. Oh, I don't want to say the word wrong. It has a name. They put like a banana leaf, and they have several flowers of several colors that represent several elements. So you have, I don't want to say everything because I think at some point I'm going to be mistaken, but you have the blue flowers that represent water. You have the incense and everything. And every morning the women would put this at the bottom of the doors and to the sea also if they live by the sea. So they do this, and ceremonies are very, very important, and they go by clan, as to say. It's like the extended family. So you have the cousins, the uncles, and the great uncles, and the great aunties, and everything. And they go to the temples, and when you have like big annual ceremonies, you have like more than 2,000 people in the street walking.
On the street?
Yeah. And if you are in a car, for example, you have a lot of traffic. But every Balinese person, they have their sarong, so it's like a
sarong, okay.
Yeah, the clothes they put and everything. Everybody is in traditional clothes, and they just go to the temple to pray. So they have like special music and everything. It's really nice to see.
So it will happen in the daytime or in the nighttime? In the morning or in the evening?
In the morning.
In the morning.
Is it normally sunrise and sunset?
I think that might depend on the celebrations. For example, they have celebration about the moon. When we arrived, it's something that occurs every 50 years, what I remember. And that would be more in the night, but most of it is during the sunrise to the Western tourism, which means that you have some remote parts in Bali that are still not touristic parts. That would be the east part of the island. But when you go to the west part, it's very crowded with tourism. And it's not that, there are tourists, but also local people. There are cities. The only Balinese people you see would be in the restaurants, working in the restaurants. And only because there are rules in which foreigners cannot work in these restaurants. So, but in the streets you will only see Western people, restaurants that are completely westernized. The homestays are completely made for Western people. Only like you're living in a cage with very white. Everything is white furnitures, white walls.
With a big swimming pool, like
Yes.
it's quite luxury. So some people want luxury, it's fine,
Yeah.
but it's only this at times. And we struggled a bit to find something really authentic, like really the Balinese culture. We were wanting like to really get to know how do you live and to to have an experience where we could share with people. But
Yeah.
in some parts of the islands, it becomes really complicated, and yeah.
And well, maybe for Western people it might be cheap, but for Balinese people, I think it's out of their budget. In some part of the city, I think about Canggu, which is really like the most touristic part of the island, which personally I didn't like it a lot because of the lack of the of authenticity. The kind of restaurants they have in Canggu is the same that we have in Europe. There were places that they were the same places that you can see in European cities. But the problem now is that it doesn't seem that they don't have they can go back now. Now they rely only on tourism. If they want it over, it's impossible. Now this city has been built for tourism. There is no place for local people, and I think that it's kind of a bit a shame to lose this kind of identity, because Bali is really a beautiful island with beautiful history. Is the most different island in all Indonesia, because they are the only one who are not Muslims. So that makes them different compared to the other islands they have in Indonesia. So
Do you know the reason why a lot of white people choose to go to Bali?
I think it was a few decades ago. The hippies wanted to go to Bali for like spiritual cleansing and yoga and everything.
surfing,
The Australians call it.
Australian.
Yeah.
So when I've spoken to Australians about Bali, they call it their version of Tenerife or Mallorca. It's what they are to Australians.
Yeah.
They'll go there on a young lad's holiday, or go on holiday, they'll go
And then
on holiday.
geographically, it's very close. So.
Yeah.
It's like very close.
So yes, it was all about spirituality and nature.
And then it became a kind of business, and now, in my sense, it's out of control at some point. Like it's just you walk in the street at like not everywhere in Bali, but you walk in the street, you have a pizza restaurant, you have a taco restaurant, you have puppy yoga, you have I don't know, a nail salon, which is fine. You have like it's everything.
Not what the locals use.
And a lot of people might go to Bali thinking they were going to do something authentic, but it's completely for tourists. For example, they will do yoga in Bali, but yoga doesn't come from Indonesia. I think it's from India.
I think it's very popular in India.
It's very popular in India, but it's not from Indonesia and it's not from Bali. But now they assimilate yoga, like Bali, to yoga, about spirituality. People will do cleansing in sacred waters.
Oh my God.
Cleansing.
Yeah, they
It's
have.
like-
they
I
have
understand. They
Sacred
give water.
temple,
They
you
have-
have the water.
They go to sacred temples that were once maybe sacred to the local people, and now you have Western people.
It's only white people.
Yeah, only white people who doesn't know the culture or the religion or the story behind, but they were told that is to clean their body. And but at the end you see that it's only for consumption, like it's all
they pay the entry and they queue just like to put the water on their face, like you can see
And there's no
videos
locals.
online.
there's no
queue.
locals.
Just they wait, they put the water and they go and they pay for this.
the local
And they
And they
think
don't
that that water really magical, can take all
They
the
think-
sin away.
But like it's the belief of the locals, but
They think they're connecting locally, when they're
yes.
not. Because
Yeah.
But
you're
they
not
just
connecting
paid
locally.
to go into the temple and they just queued and just think that all their sins will go away.
Yeah.
But like you didn't make an effort to understand completely the
You
culture.
just took some water over your head. You may as well have had a shower.
One more question. How about the local people? The local people also need to pay for the entrance. Or they do it at
It's
home.
often different.
Yeah.
It's the same in all over the world.
Yeah.
You'll have a
Right.
foreigners exchange,
Yeah.
foreigners entry rate, which is often
But-
10, 20 times
Yes.
more than the
Oh,
local.
but yes, sometimes you have also like paying. You have the fees. You have for locals, religious, and tourists, Western tourists, which will pay more. And I guess that the people who do it really for religion purpose because they really believe it, maybe they do it on other times, or simply they go in other places that are more sacred to
family
them.
temples.
Yeah, more family temples or something that they really keep in secret away from.
Because this
Western.
temple, you just like, you are at the entry and all around it's all souvenir shops, like 20 souvenir shops.
I think I know.
It's like it's
a
become
lot,
a business.
a lot of cars also.
And like it's, yeah, I think if you are like, if you really want an authentic experience, it's kind of a struggle. And what we like in Bali is that we stayed in the east of Bali, which is more authentic, but more and more people are investing in the east. So it's at some point going to become like the west.
It's a matter of time.
But it's like we were in a small village, small Balinese village, and it was so, like, it was really good.
It was remote. You can clearly see that it wasn't a touristy part because when you go to the village, no one speaks English, only Balinese and Indonesian.
But you go to the tourist destination, so people speak the
everyone, yes. And even like the menu of the restaurants, they didn't have a menu in Balinese or Indonesian, just in English. In English or maybe in other language like French or German. But no a single sign on Indonesian or Balinese. And I think also I would say that Instagram kind of killed the experience of Bali, because now a lot of influencers, Instagrammers like Bali, but just because it's cheap for them, so they will live a luxury life in this country, because in their country they obviously cannot afford a villa with 3 bedrooms and free cleaning. And we could clearly see when we go, for example, to see waterfalls. We went to one of the waterfalls, and a lot of people were doing the queue to take their pictures and not really contemplating, because it was a beautiful. For me, it wasn't the most beautiful, but it was a nice view. So when I wanted like to just feel the water falling into me, they just tell me, no, you have to do the queue, because people were doing the queue to take the pictures. So for me,
it's picture like this.
Yeah, it's so
like this, and you have men like this.
It's so ridiculous.
We're like, oh my god.
It's so ridiculous to really wait, and no joke, maybe 30 minutes to just take a picture. And we have seen more incredible waterfalls in the north of Bali, but completely empty of tourists, or maybe 10 tourists, but not doing the queue, and they were more beautiful than the waterfall.
People who really wanted to enjoy the waterfall, because like this waterfall that we did in Ubud, we called it the influencer waterfall, because it was all influencer. You could see like they had, and there's no shame in that, but they had all dream body and everything, and like really, I don't exaggerate when I say that the guys were like this, and you have the women like this. And you have the Balinese guides that just do, you have to do like this. It's funny to see, like for us it was funny, but in the end, it's not how we want to enjoy what.
I can understand someone doing a photo shoot, but waiting 30 minutes to just take a photo and not really enjoying the nature.
Going back to the parking lot, you're just like.
So it means they wait for 30 minutes just to take one picture and then they leave.
Yeah.
They do not enjoy like the waterfall. That's the issue. Like you can take a picture, of course, it's beautiful. Like you can have good picture, of course. But if it's just to do this,
what's the point?
At least look at the waterfall.
Yeah, enjoy it.
It was really, really crowded, but it's every touristic spot in Bali. It's really, really crowded. So you have to get there early. But it's a beautiful island.
Yeah, it's a beautiful island.
But I think
the
rest of Indonesia can be very, very interesting, and people do not tend to go there. So,
especially you get people in Java, they'll go from Jakarta eastbound towards Bali, finish there, maybe on to Lombok. But other than that, the other islands.
Yeah, or they go to Flores or Komodo Islands. They just do the boat trip, and that's it. But I think like if you do Sumatra or other islands,
not even on the Indonesian side of Borneo, because you only get people going to the Malaysian side.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a bit more beautiful. It's probably better for tourists, but I don't know.
Yeah,
and
I think you can get a real. It's not going to be Balinese again, but a real Indonesian experience.
Because Indonesia is such a big country. The culture in the West is going to be completely different to the East. Like, you're all the way. If you go to the islands near countries like to my west, completely different levels of economic growth. People are going to get different backgrounds, different levels of money.
So conversely to Vietnam, Bali is not a country that is not an island. Sorry, because Indonesia is obviously a country that I will do it again, but other island, maybe Sumatra or Java, is definitely I will go back. But Bali, I don't know if I want to go back because we also spent 2 months in Bali. Bali is a small island, so we can say that we know everything in Bali. Sometimes even we did it twice because we already did the island. But honestly, I won't come back again in Bali.
But then we chose Bali at first because it was our first time in Asia, so we wanted something
nice
an in-between to get used to Asia.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good choice.
Yeah.
But then seeing mass tourism, it's draining
If you don't
in
want
a sense.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing to see that with your own eyes because you realize how some people behave. You realize how some people are just here to consume, like to I want to buy. It's like some people are like this. It's important. Like it makes you take a step back on your way of traveling, and you're like, oh, some people do it a certain way. I travel a certain way, and it's good to see that at least once in your life.
But
it is nice to start Asia with someone like Bali. It's a nice introduction. Not somewhere where it's a completely different culture shock. Obviously,
like
it's been because obviously it's been westernized a lot. So it's one of them places like Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, perfect introductions to. Like Singapore was a perfect introduction for me to Asia. Lots of Asian cultures all in one place.
Yeah, because you can see that other countries, very touristic locations, are already like trying to put an end on mass tourism. So that's happening a lot now in European islands, especially in Spain, where locals are protesting against the tourists.
I read a newspaper said that the local people in Spain they just have the banner and say come back home tourists.
Yeah, because because now they feel that the island is not there anymore, or the prices are increasing. But for the local people, they cannot afford it. I think it's the same now for Venice, for example. They try to put a quota about saying, okay, now a number of people can come to Venice, but no more. Same for the ferries, the big boats that came nearby. Now they say no. Or even in Peru, the Machu Picchu, they now putting a stop, like to say we don't want a lot of people coming by, otherwise it's too crowded.
So we have 12 months per year for the tourist destination. Maybe they just run the business for 9 months and then they have 3 months to take a rest for the maintenance. Just stop, but now they just continuously run the business.
I think that in Bali the business is perpetual because there's a lot of tourism. The Western people who install themselves in Bali just to work and like to.
There's a lot of. When I was there, I noticed a lot of people from countries like Russia.
Russians.
Lots of Russians who just work on the beach on a laptop.
Yeah, you see that a lot of people in the restaurants. They have their cafe and you sit there on the computers and they are working. They are not on vacation. They are working. And after that, they will have European wages for which in Bali, I'm sorry, like you live like a king. Like you have really a big villa with the minimum wage. I think I don't know, Switzerland, for example. Imagine living with more than what is the minimum wage in Switzerland? I think it's like 2,500 euros approximately.
Can you count it in per hour? Like the minimum wage per hour?
In the UK, I believe in April of 2025, so next April. Might be a bit early. will be about £12 something
Yeah, in
£12
France.
per hour.
per hour.
Yeah, in France,
It's
it
rising.
might be the same, 13 or 14
Yeah.
euros per hour.
Mm.
And
The,
that's-
the minimum.
Oh yeah, in the
Okay,
minimum.
okay.
So that in Bali, it's
It
just
gets you a lot.
it's just a lot
Mm.
per hour. I
Then
mean,
you can see you can have lunch or dinner, like Indonesian for in euros, €3,
3 euros.
and you have a good plate.
Yeah.
So
Have an
13 an hour would be.
have an Airbnb for 1 week at 100 euros. A good Airbnb. I mean, like in 1 day of work, you can pay your weekly rent. And
So 1 week, €100.
Easily.
yeah, easily a homestay, like I told you, the white walls, white furnishing, people coming to clean your house.
Mm.
Is I think it's a kind of, say, new colonialism, like to
Yeah, so we're, I don't know the word, westernization. Maybe.
yeah, completely
Yeah, yeah.
westernization.
Everything is made for Western people.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's really disturbing. Like, I think for us, it was really disturbing to be like at the other side of the world for us.
Mhm.
And like, why does it feel like home?
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, it's not
completely.
normal when
They-
you come to
They
this.
listen the same music as us. Well, I mean, they put the music. I don't know if they listen
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
They put the same music as us. They eat the same. They put in the same restaurants as us.
Mm.
Same lifestyle at
Yeah.
some point.
So it's good to make you feel like you're at home.
No.
So
No,
No,
because
no
we're-
homesick anymore.
because we're traveling a lot just to not escape from home, but
Not to
having-
be home.
Yeah,
I can
not
see the
something
same
new.
thing.
to discover another culture.
But then, yeah, and then you see some people come to the other side of the world just to feel like home.
Yeah.
What's the point?
But if I wanted
What's
to do
the
that,
point?
I'd just
Where
go
do
to
you spend
Blackpool
money?
for a week.
Mm.
Yeah, so.
So we saw some people, they spend their whole holidays in Bali in beach clubs.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why? I really struggle to understand. I didn't talk with them, so I cannot speak
I
for
can
them. But
understand for young Australians, or people our age, who want to go and break the prevention cage gym for 3 weeks
Yeah.
in their holiday.